So in the previous section, we created some components. We extracted out the markup from here, from the app.js to its relevant components, and basically tidied up what was a fairly sort of, long file, right? And this is the whole idea about React. What it does really is that it helps you to split your UI into independent reusable pieces, right? But when you do that, then the question arises, how do I now pass data from one component to another? And that's where the whole state management comes in, or the props comes in. So in this section, let's have a look at props, what they are, and how we're going to pass the props down to the to-do list here. Okay, so I've got this very simple sort of diagram, and basically what we are going to do, that we are going to have a JSON list of to-do items right in the app component, and we're going to pass that to-do items. We will pass the to-do items to the to-do list. So once it's in the to-do list, we will map over these to-do items, and then we'll pass each to-do item to the to-do item component, which we don't have yet. Okay, and that's all it is. Okay, it's basically passing some data from the parent down to whichever component needs that data so that it can be rendered. Okay, so let's start with that, and obviously with the time we are going to improve this sort of prop drilling. That's what they call it, when you pass the data or the items as props from parent to child, and from there to grandchild, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's have a look. Imagine we have some sort of a data. In fact, I'm going to go and cheat a little because we already have some data here. Okay, so let's just copy this, and I wonder if I can copy the whole block here. Let me see. So if we come back here, and let's call these const to do items, right? Paste that in. Beautiful. Okay, it did copy, so that's a good thing. So these are to do items, right? And for now, I'm just going to delete this because we're not going to need that, just to keep things simple. And delete this, and then order from there, and the links. So we've got these 3 to-do items, and what we're going to do is we're going to pass these to-do items down to to-do list, right? So here's how the props would work. Okay, I'm going to call these to-do items, right? And so this is completely up to you. You don't have to call them to-do items. You can call them anything that you want, right? And basically the curly braces, it signals React that I'm going to give you a JavaScript object or anything JavaScript related, right? So anything within the curly braces is basically JavaScript expression, function, whatever it is, it will treat it as JavaScript. Okay, so now that we've passed the props in here, what we'll do is we'll go to the to-do list. Now that we are passing the props in there, so we will accept the props here, and if I cancel log props, let's see what we get here. So if I open my console, so it's giving me object, and it has got other sort of functionality and methods attached to it, but I can see that I've got to do items here as well. Great. Okay, so what I'll do now is I can say, so you can basically destructure, right? So what destructuring, that's just plain JavaScript, but I could do something like this, right? I can say, give me the to-do items. To give you an example, let's say that I can say const to-do items is equal to props dot to do items, right? But if I want to use the destructuring, what I could do is I can say something like this. Okay, and this way you will get the to do items out of the props, but you can actually destructure it right here, right? So you don't have to do that there. So that means now that I have access to the to-do items, what I could do is I can map over. And to map over, remember when I said you have this open and close curly braces, so that means it's going to be a JavaScript object, okay? And I can say to do items dot map, so we will map over it, and that means I'll get each to do, okay? And then I will bring this list item and just paste it here. Okay. You don't even have to give it the, parentheses there. So what we can do is either we can return, let's do it in 2 steps. So I can return a JSX from here and bring this, okay, and that should work. If I can format it a little, that will help. Okay, so now we basically are accepting the to do here, so that means that I don't have to hard code it here anymore. I can just say to do dot title, I believe that's what we call it. Come back. Beautiful. So we've got now blah blah blah. Alright, so that's not good. So let's make it a bit more realistic. React training, go for a run, and what this would be, listen to some music, I don't know, whatever, right? Something which we can see. So if I come back, there you go. Okay, so right now we are adding a completed class. So what we can do for now is that if I go back to the to-do list here, I can just remove that for now, okay, so that we don't get the straight through on each item. Okay, so here we are returning some JSX, okay. That means we can make it even more simpler. So if I remove this and I remove this block here, and what I can do now is just return the JSX, okay. So I don't even have to now have the curly braces and then have the return statement. I can just directly return this JSX, and that basically just makes it a little more, I suppose, cleaner, or saves you a few characters to type. Okay, so if you come back, yeah, we get the same result. But notice we are getting an error, right? So it says that each child in a list should have a unique key. And what it really is saying that, whenever you are mapping over something in React or even in the Vue.js, you need to provide a unique key for that item so that internally React can keep a track of. Okay, so it keeps a track of what is changed, and then accordingly do the DOM diffing, or basically updating that particular node in the DOM. Okay, so if I say a list key, and I can say to do dot ID. I think we had ID, right? So if I do that, come back, that error should disappear. So if I were to refresh, yep, everything is working. I suppose our next step should be that we can extract this list item or each to-do item into its own component, right? So let's do that. Let me create a new file and let's call it to-do item, right? And let's just do the boilerplate, and what I'll to-do item is absolutely fine. I'll just export that as a constant. Okay, and here we can paste the to-do item markup. So let me go back and let's just cut this out. Okay, come back here and we can paste it here. So now we need to do in here, so I'll again destructure to do out of the props from there. Okay, and let's just do a little reformatting. So if I go back to to-do list, I will just import it here. So import to-do item, and here we can say to-do item, and we will pass it. We'll pass to do as a prop. Okay. And if we come back, refresh, so this is all working fine. But if we look here, we have that error again, and that means that React is complaining, or React doesn't really know, because we are passing the key here. Okay. However, we need to remove it from here, go back to the to-do list and pass it here. Okay, so if I give it to-do.id, okay, and now if I come back, that should disappear. Okay, so this is what I think you need to look out for, that it's not basically the markup, or you can't just add the key to any markup, but rather whatever is returning from the map, you just need to pass the key there. Okay, so now that we are passing the to-do there, let's tackle the completed status, right? So if I go back here, let's just make this true, that it's been completed, and let's make this one true as well. Okay, go back to to-do item. Here what we can do is we can say that let's create a completed class, and basically we will say that if to-do is completed, if that's true, then give it a class called completed, otherwise just an empty string. And that means that we can come here now and say class name is equal to completed class. Okay, so if we come back, and here we go, that's cool. Okay, so in the next section we will be looking at how we can toggle the status for a to-do item, and let's see if we can basically remove them or delete them.